Hello, everyone. Welcome to SED 367 Black and Brown Individuals with Visual Impairments presentations, featuring Jennifer
Hi, everyone.
and Olivia.
Hello, everyone.
Starting us off for Olivia with the first slide. Take us away.
Alrighty. Systemic racism, by my definition, is a system of discrimination within different societal institutions. This has formed into a distrust of the healthcare system within the Black community, according to a research poll conducted by the Kaiser Family Foundation in 2020. The discrimination experienced by the Black and Brown individuals is then intertwined with discrimination of individuals with visual conditions, producing what we call a double whammy effect. The book Diversity and Visual Impairment describes experiences as being a minority within the minority. Black and Brown individuals with visual impairments continue to experience the double whammy of racism and discrimination because of their visual status. We pulled this quote from page 75 of the textbook I mentioned earlier. Addison, if you'd like to take over.
Thank you very much. To further exemplify some of the psychological implications specific to the Black community, some of the more common unhealthy behavior/characteristics used by individuals with visual conditions in order to serve social functions include feelings of isolation, withdrawal, and depression. Those are most common. Moving on to the community supports, there is the connectivity to religious institutions and kinship. Specifically, we talk about the individual's connection to community supports, like a church, or some kind of church organization or after-school group. We also talk about kinship. Yes, we talk about their immediate family, but we also talk about their invented families, or people who they share a strong kinship bond with, even if they are not bonded by blood or by name. As a future TVI, it's important that we take all of these things into consideration. Yes, we want to be aware of the societal, community, and cultural level psychological implications, community support, systemic racism, but we also want to be aware, what does that mean to the individual student, and how can we help them further themselves in their educational career and beyond? Jennifer, next slide, take it away.
Yeah, so now that we know a little bit about the attitudes and cultural situations that our students may face, we're going to go ahead and connect that to how it will affect our students in their education. So starting off with the educational programming that a student receives at their school will depend on their environment or their environment of their school or the layout of their school district. So students with low vision or blindness could be placed into a general education classroom, a leveled special education classroom, or a variety of different placements based on what the student needs. So when a student's educational programming is in process, a student who is a POC or person of color and a member of the low vision and blind community, or a student experiencing the double whammy, may affect their placements because of their intersectionality. For example, in a TED Talk led by expert Morgan Gill, the speaker goes into detail about AVE and the effects that this vernacular English may have on a student. So AVE is a type of language spoken by POC, and it is a different way of pronouncing the quote-unquote typical English words. So students who use this language are often placed in a lower tiered portion of the PBIS system because the students do not conform to the typical English language that's used on standardized testing. Students who are dealing with things like this language barrier and a vision condition on top of it, they will struggle with being placed in the right educational programming. So as a future TVI, it is very important to assess all these conditions and backgrounds to ensure the student is being placed in the most appropriate environment. So this will allow the student the most success. This can also be done by really assessing the student in their different environments, analyzing that data, and gaining insight into the student's background to see what they need for success. So moving on to classroom environments, these should all look similar to students, but based on a student's environment, our school environment and the district they are in, the classrooms are going to look different. A POC student should encounter students who look and sound like them, but they should also encounter students who look different than them, as should all students. Their classroom environment should be based on a team decision and several tests and surveys to ensure that the student is in the best environment to promote the most success, no matter where that may be. While it's beneficial for classrooms to be diverse and filled with students of all different backgrounds, it's also important for POC students to connect with their community and relate with people who've experienced similar milestones and situations in their lives. So community members will also be aware of better assets that may benefit the student. So as a future TVI, it's really important to indulge with the members of the student's community so we can best support them to the best of our abilities. And with that, it is important to understand that some of us TVIs may not be able to resonate with our students. That's normal and okay. So like myself, I'm not a POC and I do not have a visual condition. So the best approach to a situation like this would be to learn and provide for the student by giving them the best resources to invest in themselves and their educational programming. This will ensure that the students are taking charge and advocating for their own educational programming because they are really the only people who truly know what they are capable of to the best of the extent. As TVIs, we are meant to give them the resources and guide them along the way.
All right, so what is a team member? That's pretty self-explanatory. It's a member of a team that is aiming towards a certain goal. What can they do for a person of color? Well, they can support them in any way they can. Supporting a student who is a person of color with a visual condition includes acknowledging the student's background and how being a member of two or more minority groups will affect the pillars of their life. The students' attitudes will vary based on the environment and the tasks being performed. This means that if they don't feel comfortable with the tasks and the environment that they are in, they will most likely act out or not act as themselves, or they might not do as well. Pushing the student for success without overstepping boundaries is also an important factor to ensure student success. We want them to come out of the comfort zone a little bit, but not too much to the point where they're uncomfortable. If the student needs knowledge or advice regarding the ideology of being a person of color, the information should come directly from someone with that background and experience. The student should be involved and knowledgeable about multicultural issues and guaranteed they have a voice in the situation. Pointing the student towards resources and references to gain sufficient information could be beneficial to support their thinking. As we have mentioned earlier, religious connectiveness and kinship in the community are very important to the person and to the community, so this should be considered when working with a person of color. As a future TVI, it would be my job to work with my fellow team members to advocate for the student when they are not there, making goals that will support and guide them. And basically, so my job as a TVI is supporting the student to be the best person they can be. And as a person who is not a person of color and who is not visually impaired, it can be hard for me to connect with them. But being a team member means I work with other people, such as an IEP team, to help guide them through their education and, yeah, make them the best they can be.
Advocacy plays a role in the roles of the team members by helping to advocate for your students. You can help encourage your fellow team members to help push narratives that foster independence of the student and advocate for the student's rights and desires. Going on to talk about understanding the student's culture and community, a research poll mentioned earlier in the presentation by the Kaiser Family Foundation, quote, nearly 6 in 10 members of the Black community said they trust the nation's healthcare system with only some or almost none of the time to do what is right for their communities. End quote. Taking that into context, we can understand that it may be that the Black community is more unaware of some visual impairments and possibly their causes. Taking that into consideration, we want to do our best as TVIs to provide accurate medical information, accurate medical definitions, in a way that is easy to understand for our students and their families, as well as to make it very clear the resources available to them to help possibly pay financially for some of the needed resources for their child that the maybe the student can use at home or that go outside of the school's IEP quota spending reach. We also want to help to build trust with the student and the parent. Advocacy starts with the student and it ends it starts with us as the TVI and ends with the student. We as the TVI are helping to make decisions for the student that can help them later on in their educational career and beyond. But most importantly, we're helping to ensure that they can advocate for themselves one day. That leads into helping to develop awareness and advocacy skills, talking about independence and the student's perspective is important for a lifelong pursuit of advocacy. As a future TVI, we need to take all of these and incorporate them into our daily activities and work to truly ensure that our student will be ready for the day when they leave high school. But more than that, they will be ready to succeed when they leave high school. And next slide.
All right. So a little bit about collaborative consultation. As it was stated before, the IEP team and IEP meetings are used for students to evaluate their strengths and needs. Though these meetings are very important and collaboration is needed during these meetings, it is also important for the team to stay active when these meetings are non-process, as they only happen a few times a year. Collaborating is a process that enables people with diverse expertise to generate creative solutions that is not possible with one person with one individual background, aka a TVI alone, especially if they do not have the backgrounds that are similar to a student. These ideas and processes are meant to be thought out and heard of as a group, so the best possible solutions and activities are being drawn out for the student. IEP meetings are important for developing goals and objectives for the student's academic journey, as well as their ECC goals, but the team collaboration should not end with these goals. Collaborative consultation should also involve whatever the student needs to be successful. For a POC student in particular, who also has a visual condition or a student experiencing the double whammy effect, this could include gaining role models who are also a POC with a visual condition, or one role model who's a POC and one model who has a visual condition. Allowing our students to connect with these people will allow them to share experiences with somebody who is similar to them that can inspire them academically or out of school. Collaborating on who this role model will be and what the boundaries are set between the student and the role model are needed to be thought out by the team collaboratively. This could also include just genuinely learning about the student and their background by having conversation with friends and family members. Sitting down with the student or their family members and taking time to learn their background and where they came from is very important to where the student will be placed in their educational programming. Collaborative consultation is also involves planning activities for students, and this draws back on the idea that a TVI should not only be active in the classroom, but should be active in the community so that the student and the team members are aware of all the opportunities that the community has to offer for the student. This could be as simple as a group that meets once or twice a week in a library in the community, to sitting down in a school and planning the student's future day by day. As stated, in the Self-Esteem and Adjusting with Blindness textbook in chapter 6, the implications of having this collaborative network is to provide the student with support and understanding. But providing these supports, which can include things like emotional support, creating realistic goals, being a good listener, giving supportive feedback, etc., as listed in the text, the student will gain a large amount of confidence, a large supporting network, and many points of interest when they need troubleshooting with daily life issues or implications regarding their status as somebody who is very intersectional.
Right. What are ethics and professionalism? Ethics can be described as morals that change the behavior of a society or of a community. And professionalism, as the quote says, doesn't mean just looking good. It means being confident and respectful to those who we are working with. And why should we have ethics and act with professionalism? The better question is, why not? Ethics may be different depending on where we are, but they should all be respected. And professionalism also means being confident. And with this confidence, if you're not confident in what you are saying, it's going to be hard for other people to believe that you know what you are doing. So what does ethics and professionalism look like? Part of this is acknowledging your own biases and prejudices. Almost everyone has biases and prejudices that they may or may not be aware of. And part of acknowledging it is finding a solution to ignoring it or somehow saying, hey, this is not correct. This could mean reading other biographies of a person of color, or it could mean listening to TED Talks, or just talking to other people about it. And if you feel that a bias or a prejudice may affect how you work, you need to tell other team members about this so you can find a solution to this. Another important thing is keeping in contact with families and respecting their ideas and beliefs. You know, as a future TBI, it is my job to advocate for my students. I'm supposed to be one of their biggest fans. Note how I said one of their biggest fans, not the biggest fans. Their biggest fans is their family or community members. So if they have a different religion, ideas, or of course beliefs than I do, I need to respect that and keep that out of how I do my job or how I might help set a goal for one of my students. Because as we have all learned, is about what the family wants and what is best for the student, not what we think is best. And we should not make assumptions. It is so easy to make assumptions and judge people based on these. Well, we shouldn't be jumping to any conclusions. What this means is that we need to meet someone with an open mind, starting fresh with them, and gathering information as you interact with them. And assumptions should not be. You should be positive. Yes, this person is this way. This is their personality. Don't assume anything. As a future TBI, of course, I want to help my students in any way I can. And this means that I need to put my own personal life, personal problems, personal ideas aside, and helping the student in any way I can. It means advocating for them when they can't advocate for themselves, and advocating for the family. Before we show our works cited, we were asked to answer the questions, what do you think has changed since this book has been published? And what are some takeaways from this? What I would say is that what we have seen on the news these past few months has been horrific for people of color. And once again, I am not a person of color, so I cannot say what this is like. But for my student, I could say, hey, I know this is scary. I know you are not sure what's going to happen, but I can tell you this. School, or around us, around other team members, around their community, is where they should feel safe. That's what we all want. We want to feel safe with the people we are connected to, or the people that are helping us. And a takeaway is that we shouldn't look at the color of their skin. Everyone should be treated equally. But the point of this presentation was saying that there have been discrimination and racism against people of color. But, you know, we can't fight racism on our own, but we can be part of a community that will teach others to maybe not think some of the things they are, or making change, or even calling out people on their ideas. And as I said before, correcting your own biases and prejudices. Addison, Jennifer, did you have anything to say?
Yep. So answering those questions, just so then, since this book has been published, you're right, Olivia, there has been a lot of injustices and just not good things surrounding the POC and just the community revolving around it. And I think that this book does go into detail about the self-esteem and addressing with blindness overall, but it could touch a little bit more on individuals within these communities who may not have, or who do suffer with things like the double whammy effect, having and being inside of two separate minority groups, and how that will affect them all together. Because having a visual condition and being a POC and having a visual condition may involve two completely different subject matters. Just like being somebody with a visual condition and being somebody in the LGBT plus community, they are both completely different. And I think that since this book has been published, some of those issues have been brought to light and are looking for solutions and research. And I think that that is something that these authors could look for, as in, and maybe even some of us could look for in the near future. But a takeaway I did have from this book is just about how to build our students' self-esteem and just how to support them to the best of our abilities by using the resources that we are provided.
Jen, Olivia, I think that is both very well said. I think that's very well said. I don't have anything to add.
Perfect. So just to wrap up, just a little bit about our presentation. As future TBIs, we plan to support our students just by guiding them in the right directions and by acknowledging their backgrounds. And we hope that as everybody watching this, as future TBIs, they do the same. Here are our works cited, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.